What is up, boys and girls? Londrick here with a special Easter Sunday edition of Lundrick's Fave Five. So, whatever you're doing on your Easter Sunday, if you're having your Easter eggs or whatever the hell you do on Easter Sunday, here's a nice little Easter treat for you. Let's listen to an edition of Lundrick's Fave Fives, and this topic is going to be Ring of Honor matches. So, I put a post out in the community section of my channel a couple of days ago, but if you haven't seen it, I'll basically repeat it here. So, the conclusion I've come up with these Fave Fives is I'm going to continue doing them, but the thing about them, I kind of felt like I was just talking about the same things over and over again. I mean, if you've watched enough of Fave Fives, I've talked about the same match or the same storyline or the same situation multiple times, and I was getting quite bored of it, so I surmised if I'm getting quite bored of doing that, it's probably quite boring to you, the listeners. So what I'm going to try and do going forward is talk about things that I haven't previously talked about before. So for the most part, I'm probably going to try and get away from WWE related videos, because I feel like that's pretty much where the bulk of the repetitiveness is coming from. So I'm going to do some other stuff, and I got this idea because I was randomly watching stuff on Watch Mojo YouTube channel, because I don't just sit there and watch wrestling stuff as well. That's actually one of the main things I watch on YouTube apart from wrestling is old Simpsons related videos, and Watch Mojo has quite a few Simpsons lists, but they also do wrestling lists as well. And not too long ago I was watching a Ring of Honor list, and I thought, ta-da! That's a Fave Five, Ring of Honor. That's something I've not really talked about much on these videos. So, yeah, there you go. So guys, if you've got any ideas, drop them below. But, bear this in mind, I only want to talk about things that I haven't really talked about much in the past. So, that's being suggested that I do TNA matches, maybe as a follow-up. And I think I'll probably do one like that, I would say. So, I think a TNA... Fave 5 TNA matches are definitely in the future, and for that one maybe I can include pay-per-views as well. I've been asked about New Japan matches, but I'm thinking I might try and do that in categories, because I think there's a lot of different categories you can do with New Japan. So like coming up December I could probably do a Wrestle Kingdom related one. Maybe I think in the summer I definitely will do a Fave 5 G1 Climax matches, IWGP Heavyweight Championship matches, etc, etc. So things along those lines. So yeah, enough blabbling. Let's get to the main event, and that's Fave 5 Ring of Honor matches. Now, when I go through this video, you'll probably get a good idea of the time I was really following Ring of Honor the most. Not a big Ring of Honor fan nowadays. I don't really watch the product at all. In fact, when I watched the G1 Supercard, I was pretty unimpressed by the Ring of Honor stuff. But there was a time when Ring of Honor was an awesome wrestling promotion, and had many fantastic matches with a lot of guys that's now gone on to be superstars in the WWE. A lot of them will feature on this list. So, before we get the actual list, let's just rattle off a few honourable mentions. So, honourable mention number 1, the Do Fixer vs Blood Generation Dragon Gate 6-man tag match in the original Supercard of Honor back in 2006. Kenta vs Loki for Ring of Honor Final Battle 2005. Bryan Danielson vs Paul London 2 out of 3 falls match from the Epic Encounter. Bryan Danielson vs Loki from Round Robin Challenge. Samoa Joe vs Loki from Glory by Honor 1. Samoa Joe vs CM Punk from All Extravaganza. Either 2 or 3, I can't remember which one, but it was definitely one of those. Bryan Danielson vs Nigel McGuinness from Ring of Honor Driven. Let's have a think. Takashi Morishima vs Bryan Danielson from Manhattan Mayhem 2 in 2007, I believe it was. But yeah, enough about honorable mentions. Let's get now to the actual list. Coming in number 5, we're going back to 2007. Ring of Honor Man Up ladder match for the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships. The Briscoe Brothers versus Kevin Steen and El Generico. Wow, what a rival this was in 2007. Of course, the Briscoe Brothers, Ring of Honor mainstays. The they've for more or less been there since day one. They started for the company. God, they were real young when they started for the company. I think one was 18, the other one was 17. I think Jay's the older one and Mark's the younger one. I can't remember. It's either that or the other way around, but yeah, but they were like 17, 18-year-old kids when Ring of Honor started. And pretty much in the early days, they were the top tag team in the company. Now, the Briscoe brothers have not been Ring of Honor continuously since day one. As a matter of fact, they took a brief hiatus. They left the company in about mid-2004 and didn't come back until early 2006. And it was that 2006 comeback that they really established themselves as a top elite level tag team. Multiple time Ring of Honor tag team champions. Awesome matches of the likes of Roderick Strong and Austin Aries. Chris Hero and Claudio Castagnoli, the Kings of Wrestling. And particularly an absolutely amazing match with Motor City Machine Guns at some point in 2007. And then another team come into Ring of Honor in 2007. A team, the two guys that are well known in the PWG. And that's Kevin Steen and El Generico. And if those names are familiar, they should be. You now know them better as Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. So 12 years ago, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn were just young independent wrestlers trying to find their way in the business. And they made their way to Ring of Honor. And they just had instant chemistry. They were just an awesome tag team at the time. You look back at them now and just think, my God, have they changed over the years. Generico, aka Sami Zayn, of course, was known as a generic luchador. He had the luchador mask, did the ole ole thing, etc. And God, he's definitely changed so much over the years. I mean, he really was a bag of bones back then. I mean, he was so skinny back then. I dare bet he was probably about 155 pounds in those days. Probably 160 pounds at the most. And Kevin Steen, obviously back then, he was not as heavy as he is now, but he was clean shaven. To be honest, Kevin Owens, back then, before he got a bit older and grew his beard out and stuff, kind of just looked like a spotty teenager. But despite the looks, I mean, because at the time, those guys would never ever have made it in WWE in those days. I mean, they had to really make the names of the independent scene before getting the chance of WWE. So he comes into Ring of Honor and they immediately have this fantastic feud of the Briscoe brothers. And they had loads of kind of matches. They had I believe they had a Boston Street fight, 2 out of 3 falls, fight without honor. So all kinds of matches, just brutal matches. They were having some of the best matches, tag team matches in the world at the time. And then 2007, also a time Ring of Honor was starting to slowly come on as a company. It had been around for 5 years at this point. And it was slowly but surely growing some traction. I mean, it always had its loyal following, but I think it was definitely grown. And then 2007, they got into the pay-per-view game, kind of. So they were on pay-per-view, but it was a little different. So WWE and, of course, TNA at the time have the simple monthly pay-per-views, Sunday night live pay-per-views. Ring of Honor, however, did something a little different. I believe they had about 4 pay-per-views a year. But there was a little twist on them. One, they were like 2-hour pay-per-views, but they were pre-taped. They were taped several months in advance and then aired on a random. I can't even remember what night they were aired, to be honest with you. I guess it would probably be a Sunday, but it might have even been a Friday or Saturday. I'm not sure. But so they had these pre-taped pay-per-views. So I'm guessing, obviously, running a live pay-per-view is probably quite expensive. And it was just an expense Ring of Honor didn't have. And I guess it was just an experiment to see if they could grow the audience, get fans to order the pay-per-view and all that, just make some extra money. And then, because this pay-per-view was aired in December 2007, but it actually was taped in September or something. This is the second or third pay-per-view. And this was the main event of that show. And that was an awesome pay-per-view from what I remember. I mean, there was a great 4-corner survival match opening. We had another Morishima Danielson title match. Off the top of my head, I can't really remember anything else on this show. But this was the main event. And this was going to be the finale of this long feud between these two teams. And it was going to be a ladder match. Although what Ring of Honor billed it as a ladder war. And calling it a war would be a pretty damn good description of this match. Because holy crap. But yeah, this match is amazing. I mean, some obviously we've seen some classic ladder matches over the years. This is right up there with some of the very best ladder matches of all time. You look at the Hardys, Dudley's Boys, and Edge and Christian ladder matches. This match is definitely on that scale, I would say. And for the record, just so people are wondering, every match comes on this list is a 5-star match on the star rating scale. But oh my Christ, this match is amazing. I mean, they were all young guys at the time, they're all in the early 20s, and damn it, they just wanted to leave the mark on the business and impress. And in doing that, I would say, from a pure violence standpoint, this is probably the most brutal ladder match I think I've ever seen. I think there's been ladder matches that have told a better story before. There's even been ladder matches with more crazy stunts before, but that's just pure violence. Oh my god. I mean, these used ladders as a weapon. They did all sorts of crazy shit, like throwing people off one ladder onto another. Oh, just some of the stuff they did. Oh my god. You would not believe some of the stuff he did in here, man. My word. I think even Kevin Steen did a package pile drive, one of them through a fucking ladder. I mean, this isn't a stunt ladder, by the way. This is a fucking metal ladder. I mean, call wrestling fake if you want, but I don't think there's any way you could really fake being package pile driving through a ladder. It's like, holy crap, boys. But you couldn't pay me enough to do some of the stuff these guys did in this match. I mean, just, like, I think that's what the beauty of pro wrestling is. A pro wrestling match can be awesome for so many different reasons. So, a Raw wrestling match might be awesome because it's a fantastic wrestling match with loads of awesome technical moves and all that. Or it could be a hardcore match with brutal weapons, blood, barbed wire, etc., etc. One could just be shenanigans with a lot of twists and turns and kickouts and run-ins, etc. This match is awesome because these guys just really just beat the living shit out of each other for our entertainment. I mean, wow. I mean, yeah, for me, I would say if you ever any non-WWE ladder match, I would probably recommend this as the one. I think this is definitely for me the best ladder match outside the WWE. I mean, if you haven't seen it, I would say definitely check it out. It's a bloody good one. Coming in number 4, one of the most famous bouts in Ring of Honor history, perhaps the biggest match in Ring of Honor history as well, and that's simply Samoa Joe versus Kenta Kobashi. On the show, aptly billed Joe versus Kobashi, because this is what the show is all about. This show didn't need a fancy title. Just put Joe versus Kobashi on the marquee and that's it. So yeah, this, like I said, this for me, this is probably one of the most iconic matches in Ring of Honor history, featuring an absolute professional wrestling legend in Kenta Kobashi. And at the time, probably the biggest star in Ring of Honor, Samoa Joe. And arguably Samoa Joe still the biggest homegrown star in Ring of Honor history. Although some people might say Bryan Danielson or CM Punk. But I would say Punk and Danielson have definitely going to have better careers outside Ring of Honor. But as far as in Ring of Honor, Samoa Joe for me, God, I love that guy. So, it's 2005 when New York City, Ring of Honor, of course, at that time, I think, for me anyway, the best years of Ring of Honor were definitely 2005 and 2006. I mean, granted, probably business-wise, you probably had better years. Hell, they do a hell of a lot better now, business-wise, Ring of Honor, than they did back then. But just the product at the time was just absolutely outstanding. Especially when WWE was a few years removed from the Attitude Era and really getting stale and boring. A lot of guys are going and all that. A company like Ring of Honor was there for the hardcore wrestling fans, and God, some of the names that passed through that company in that time period are unbelievable. Check out some of these names: Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Homicide, Nigel McGuinness, Austin Aries, Roderick Strong, Claudio Castagnoli, Chris Hero, just so many guys. And then, so Ring of Honor starting to grow a little bit. Obviously, still a hardcore following, but starting to gain a little bit of traction because at the time you had 3 real companies in the United States. Obviously, it's not quite like it was in the 90s with WWF, WCW, and ECW. But obviously, WWE was obviously the top, like the top. Then you had TNA, was kind of number 2. And then Ring of Honor kind of was kind of like the ECW at the time, but in a completely different way because it was more of a wrestling company. And So what Ring of Honor were trying to do was reach out to other companies and make deals, and they struck a deal with Pro Wrestling Noah. And here's an interesting fact for you at the time. So in 2005, New Japan was not the top company in Japan like it is now. Obviously New Japan now was awesome, but at the time New Japan was probably in its worst ever period in this time period, and Noah was definitely the hottest promotion in Japan. And the top guy in that company, of course, was Kenta Kobashi, who was, like I say, at that time, an absolute wrestling legend. I would say probably every bit as legendary as someone like Hiroshi Tanahashi is now. So Kobashi had a long career going back to the late 80s, but in the 1990s, in his heyday in All Japan Pro Wrestling, then in the mid 2000s had a massive run in Pro Wrestling Noah. From 2003 to early 2005 was a GSC heavyweight champion, and he was, and I guess at the time we assumed we get guys like Kenta and Morofuji and all that, but they're not going to get, Ring of Honor's not going to get Kenta Kobashi. That's just not going to happen, because at the time Ring of Honor, although it was popular with the die-hard fans, was still a niche product, and you were thinking a guy like Kobashi would never be in Ring of Honor. But it finally happened, the deal was made, and I think it was early October 2005, Kenta Kobashi was coming to Ring of Honor, and this posed a problem. This was great, but it also posed a potential problem, because you got Kenta Kobashi, who's a much bigger star than 95% of your roster. 95% of your roster. Who the hell do you put in there with Kenta Kobashi? There was one man for the job, and one man only. That man was Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe, of course, legendary Ring of Honor title reign from 2003 to 2004. Almost a 2-year title reign. Just iconic title reign. I mean, what Gabe Sapolsky had done did an awesome job of building up Samoa Joe, this unstoppable monster. I mean, I always likened Samoa Joe's Ring of Honor run to Taz's in ECW, because Paul Heyman was able to convince that ECW audience that Taz was the baddest motherfucker in the business. Even if he wasn't, Paul Heyman managed to convince the ECW faithful he was. And I kind of feel like Gabe Sapolsky had that special aura about Samoa Joe as well, so wow. So we got Kobashi and Joe, and this is like, holy fuck, this is going to be something. So the question was, could Samoa Joe hang with a guy like Kenta Kobashi, and could Kenta Kobashi live up to his legend in Ring of Honor? And the match happened, and obviously New York City, always a very knowledgeable town, knowledgeable crowd. They all knew who Kobashi was, so fans were in an absolute fever pitch just for Kobashi coming out. And then the match. This match is unbelievable. Like probably one of the most brutal fights you'll ever see, because this was made to feel like a big time fight. What I did like about, there was no commentary for this match, which I do kind of enjoy actually, because I think it really helped the atmosphere out a lot. It was like, the message was, we don't need to commentate on this match. This match speaks for itself. Just watch the match and get into it. So the guy just beat the crap out of each other with chops and smashes and suplexes. It definitely felt like a Japanese style match for me, like a Japanese strong style match. So kind of like a Tomohiro Ishii versus Kasori Shibata type of match. And Kobashi more than lived up to his legend. I mean, Kobashi could have easily just come in and took this. This is a payday for me. I'll go to the United States, get a nice pop. I'll course through it, whatever. Because after this, Kobashi just went back to no. This wasn't a big deal for him. So Kobashi could have easily just went, yeah, whatever. We'll have a decent match, whatever. But no, Kenta Kobashi was there to impress. He gave his absolute all. I mean, fans were at an absolute fever pitch. It was just a phenomenal wrestler match. I mean, one of the best matches I've ever seen. I mean, because this was at the time probably one of Samoa Joe's best periods of his career, because this took place about 3 weeks after the TNA Unbreakable main event, because at the time Joe was working Ring of Honor and TNA, and he was getting a massive push in TNA and just really making a name for himself. And it's just unfortunate it took Samoa Joe till 2015 to get the WWE, because as good as Samoa Joe is now, God, imagine if WWE had Samoa Joe when he was young, what he could have done. I mean, as good as Samoa Joe is now, like I say, when he was younger, he was just so much better. And this match was absolutely unbelievable. I mean, Kobashi won the match, but it didn't really matter. Samoa Joe's not hurt by this loss at all. I mean, yeah, in a perfect world, maybe Samoa Joe could have beat Kenta Kobashi to really add to his legacy. But just being there with a legend like Kobashi and hanging with him 100% was good enough for me. And yeah, just unbelievable match. I mean, if you haven't seen this match before, definitely needs to be checked out because it's awesome. Coming in number 3, and we're going to go back to the Ring of Honor Noah connection. This time, a little bit less than a year late, but Ring of Honor Glory by Honor 5 Night 2 for the Ring of Honor Championship, Bryan Danielson versus Kenta, or who you might know better now as Daniel Bryan and Hideo Itami. So, as I've said before, these lists are subjective lists, so rather than objective lists. So objectively, I would probably say this match is better than number 2. But as far as like story and everything like that, I definitely favour number 2. But this match here, for me, this is the best match of Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson's entire career. It's a pure match from pure match quality standpoint. And for me, one of the absolute best matches Ring of Honor's ever put on. Not the best match, we will get to that, don't worry about that. So yeah, as I was talking about the Ring of Honor Noah Alliance in the mid-2000s, brought another guy over to Ring of Honor, and that is highly regarded junior heavyweight at the time, Kenta. Now Kenta, of course, made his Ring of Honor debut back in December 2005. Final Battle had an absolute classic with Low-Ki. I mean, that's a match that definitely was considered for this list, but didn't quite make it. The match was unbelievable. Then he was in a little bit more in 2006, but not a lot. I mean, from what I remember facing Austin Aries in Chicago. A really great triple threat match with Bryan Danielson and Samoa Joe. In a non-title match, actually, where Kenta actually pinned Danielson in that match, and I guess that earned him his title shot. And then he had a match with Davey Richards where Davey Richards was really young in the business. And then, of course, for up until about 2009, he was still doing it. And he had more memorable matches over the years. I mean, one I really remember that I think gets forgotten about quite a bit is Kenta versus Davey Richards for Supercard of Honor 4 in 2009. And I don't remember wrestling in Ring of Honor after 2009. He may have, he may not have. But now he was getting a title shot against Bryan Danielson, who was in there. It was right in the middle of his epic Ring of Honor title reign. Now, I always think Samoa Joe's title reign's more epic and probably the most memorable reign of the two. And in establishing Ring of Honor and all that type of thing. But I definitely favour Bryan Danielson's title run a little bit more. I mean, just the pure quality of the title defence that Danielson was putting on during that time was absolutely outstanding. As a matter of fact, I will probably even compare it, although not quite as big and epic, but as the Okada's last title reign, the 2-year title reign from 16 to 18. I mean, but what I loved about Danielson, he wasn't only having awesome matches with the top guys. There was other guys he was out there with as well. Such, I mean, I remember a really good title defense against Jimmy Rave, people like Alex Shelley. He had a really good one with Lance Storm, WrestleMania 22 weekend. And what he tended to do, he could have different matches with different type of people as well. And at the time, he just thought, this guy, on wrestling ability alone, may be the best wrestler in the entire world right now. And I think perhaps he was. I mean, obviously not from the whole entertainment package and all that, with mic skills and other types of things, but from a pure wrestling perspective, it's harder to deny that Bryan Danielson in 2006 may have been the best damn professional wrestler on the planet. And here we are, and another interesting thing about this match, because I think about a month prior to this, in a match of Colt Cabana, Bryan Danielson tore his rotator cuff. Now, normally you'd think, okay, he tore his rotator cuff, he'll either have to vacate the Ring of Honor title now or lose a Ring of Honor title the next opportunity. But, however, there was a big creative plan in place. So, for a while, I guess several months, the plan was for build up epic match at Ring of Honor Final Battle, Bryan Danielson versus Homicide, where Danielson was always planning to lose the title to Homicide right there, but only problem was this was 3 or 4 months away. Could this match happen? Now Bryan Danielson opted to work through his injury, so just think about it. If you watch this match, just think about this. Bryan Danielson works this match with a fucking torn rotator cuff. I mean, bloody hell, just amazing what he can do. And to be fair, it's not that surprising that he's had a lot of injury problems in his career because of the way he works and all that. So now you got Danielson, who's in this epic reign, and a star like Kenta, better known as Hideo Itami in WWE. And here we are, September 2006, in the Manhattan Center as well, which I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe I'm right, was the first time Ring of Honor ever ran the Manhattan Center. And how crazy is that? I remember everyone was excited about them being the Manhattan Center. And here we are all these years later. They ran Madison Square Garden recently. But, and that show, Glory by Honor 5 Night 2, is probably one of, if not the best show Ring of Honor ever put on. I mean, if you haven't seen that show, if you can find it somewhere on the internet, for the record, I don't know exactly where to find it on the internet, so don't ask, I don't know. I had downloaded this as a torrent like years ago. We're probably going on like 10, 12 years ago now when I saw it for the first time. Matches on this show with Nigel McGuinness versus Morufuji, Samoa Joe and Homicide against the Briscoes, I believe Aries and Strong versus the Kings of Wrestling. I think that was the match, I'm sure it was. And I can't remember what else it was, but obviously this was the main event. And Nigel McGuinness tells a great story actually a while ago. I saw an interview where the match he had with Morufuji, he was like, one of those matches where he was like, yeah, that match was awesome. So he was like, follow that, boys. And he recalls watching the main event and just realising, Bryan Danielson is just so much better than me. I mean, he couldn't believe it. Nigel McGuinness had what he thought was an absolutely amazing match. And then he watches a monitor and watches Bryan Danielson just outdo him. Oh, God, what a match. I mean, so many twists and turns, so many great near falls. I mean, Kenta just kicked the shit out of Danielson with some lethal kicks. Danielson, he brought it all, just, incredible match. But, I mean, at various times in the match you thought, is Kenta going to win? Kenta came so close to capturing the Ring of Honor title, but Danielson kept surviving. I mean, Danielson has thrown everything at Kenta. Kenta was surviving everything. But eventually Danielson got the victory. And for me, just unbelievable match. Definitely a 5-star match if you haven't seen it before. I mean, and it's always a shame. I always wondered, because I always thought it'd be kind of cool with Bryan and Tommy ever wrestled in WWE, but things didn't work out that way. Tommy came to NXT in 2014, and then Danielson didn't wrestle. Bryan didn't wrestle in WWE for 3 years. By the time Tommy came on the main roster, he was on 205 Live, and then Bryan came back on SmackDown. It just never happened. But it would have been really cool to see these guys have a match in a Ring of Honor ring, because they wrestled in 2 different companies, Ring of Honor. Then they had a rematch several months later in Pro Wrestling North for I believe that was a junior heavyweight title match, but I could be wrong. So yeah, awesome match. Definitely needs to be seen. Coming in at number 2, Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness, Ring of Honor Heavyweight versus Ring of Honor Pure Championship Unification match in Liverpool, England. Ring of Honor Unified. I think brutality is the word for this match I would use. This match, what a match this was. So, I explained earlier about Bryan Danielson's Ring of Honor title reign, which actually started at Glory by Honor 4. Yeah, we beat James Gibson in September 2005 to win the Ring of Honor Championship and just really carried the company, had many awesome matches. But at that time, there was another championship. I guess what would be the Ring of Honor equivalent of the Intercontinental title or United States title or something like that. And it was called the Ring of Honor Pure Wrestling title. But this was really an interesting title. I mean, this came into play in 2004. And I guess to give like mid to upper mid cards a title to fight for. Because at the time you only had 2 titles in Ring of Honor. The Ring of Honor Championship and the Ring of Honor Tag Team titles. So, the Ring of Honor Pure title had a special set of rules, And I had to look this up just to make sure I could remember. So for this one, there were no punches, no close fists were allowed. I mean, you had to use pure wrestling, or you had to use an open hand strike or a forearm or whatever. You could not punch somebody in the face. If you did punch somebody in the face, actually I'll get to that because there's another rule. So rule number 2, you get free rope breaks. That means you can only save yourself by getting to the ropes in a submission move or a pinfall or whatever 3 times in the match. If you use the ropes 3 times, after that, doesn't matter. Guy could have you in a submission move, you could have your feet on the ropes, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't count basically. So that was interesting because it had a little bit of strategy involved now. So guys would have to be careful to not use up all the rope breaks and picking when to use the rope breaks and all that type of thing. Going back to the original rule, there was a rule because if you hit somebody in the face, you get 3 strikes basically. 1, you get a warning. So if you did it once, you'd be warned by the referee. I guess that's kind of inspired by the old World of Sport British Wrestling rules, where if you did something wrong, you get a public warning. Strike someone again or do anything illegal, you get a rope break taken off you, which means so that could really fuck you up. And the third one was a disqualification. And in this case, titles, I'm pretty sure titles could change hands on a disqualification in this title, but I'm not 100% certain. I believe that's true. And the third one, this is a simple one. You got a 20 count to be in and out the ring, so like Japanese wrestling, whereas in the standard Ring of Honor matches you weren't count outs as such, but the commentators would always say them you could be out inside, but if you take the piss and go too far, the referee can count you out or disqualify you type thing. So this one, there was a strict 20 count. So that title debuted in 2004, I believe. I think CM Punk had the title for a while. Samoa Joe was champion for a little bit. And then Nigel McGuinness took the belt from Samoa Joe. And I think it was right like a month before Danielson became the Ring of Honor champion. So he beat Samoa, I think it was, I can't remember. I think Enter the Dragon, I think it was called, maybe. Pretty sure it was. I think it was August 2005. Nigel McGuinness became the Ring of Honor Pure Wrestling champion. And it was kind of because at the same time you had 2 champions building up the resume. So pretty much like Danielson, Nigel McGuinness was having all these awesome title defenses of all these different guys. As a matter of fact, I'd even had a couple of matches with Bryan Danielson before, actually. Couple of unsuccessful challenges for the Ring of Honor championship. I believe they had what was billed as a title versus title match not long before this, which ended in a draw, so neither title changed hands. And then we got to this show. So Ring of Honor had been around for 4 years now. They wanted to try something new. Could they draw in the United Kingdom? So they had 2 shows in the summer of 2006. Can't remember where the other one was, but this was the night before called Anarchy in the UK. And this one in Liverpool. And of course, you've got Nigel McGuinness, British wrestler. You think, well, we're in England, so we've got to put Nigel McGuinness on top, right, in the main event. That's probably going to help us draw a house, right? So they came with this decision, and to this day, I'm not sure why they made this decision, but they made a decision that was unify the titles, the Ring of Honor and the Pure Championship. I just think it was a bit of a shame that the Pure title went away, because it was a really good title, and Ring of Honor didn't really have a secondary title for several years later, like 2010, 11 time, when the Ring of Honor television title came into play. So, but they were going to put Danielson and McGuinness in the main event in a title unification match. Now we're in England, and Bryan's been the champion for about little less than a year at this point. I think a lot of people thought, well, they're going to put the belt on Nigel McGuinness, right? Well, that didn't happen. However, what did happen is a classic wrestler match took place. I mean, the brutality of this match was awesome. I mean, the atmosphere was great, the storytelling, the psychology. And I think the build-up as well, they started off having a nice wrestler match. Then as the time went on, tempers started flaring, started getting more brutal. And then towards the end, it got really insanely brutal. I mean, one of the sickest spots you'll ever see. So Danielson's on one side of the ring post, McGuinness is the other one, and they've got each other's hands, and like Danielson's pulling McGuinness towards the ring post, and Nigel's head is smacking off the ring post, and he's not faking it. I mean, he's not putting his hand up to block it or anything like that, or he's not like patting his head off it. Nigel McGuinness' head is going right in the ring post. I mean, if you watch it, there's absolutely no way they faked that. I mean, I've watched it several times, and no doubt in my mind that they just went for it, and Nigel McGuinness' head full force into the ring post. To the fact he got himself busted open, and it's like, that was hard. That was hardware. That absolutely was hardware. Because there's no way McGuinness bladed. I mean, you'd have to be fucking Houdini to blade and not have anyone notice him in that situation. Because Danielson had the control of his hands, and just looking back now, it's like, oh God, really? Did they really have to go there? Then they went in the ring, started doing full-on headbutts towards each other, which is just disgusting to watch. I mean, you watch this match and you can't be that surprised that both guys had their careers cut short, although Daniel Bryan's been able to come back, but and then the finish was just outstanding. So this great finish that Danielson came up with at one point, and I love this finish, and I really would love to see the new Daniel Bryan use this finish at some point. I mean, so he would hook McGuinness's arms MMA style, and then basically just whack him repeatedly in the face of elbows. I mean, it looked like a brutal finish. It was definitely inspired by MMA UFC style. And of course, at that point, the referee had to jump in and stop the match, because Nigel McGuinness was absolutely fucked. I mean, there was no way he could defend himself anymore, and awarded Bryan Danielson the match. Just, what a brutal story this match told. I mean, it really was. I mean, if you haven't seen this match, you'll be pretty much amazed by the brutality and the stiffness and all that. It's just, good God. And I absolutely love that finish. I mean, yeah, could McGuinness have won the Ring of Honor title in England? Sure. But I guess they would build. I think at this point they already decided they were going to go with Danielson versus Homicide for final battle. So it was fine. There's no real problem with it. I mean, but this match definitely has to be seen. It's a classic. And coming at number one, in the 17-year history of Ring of Honor, for me, in my opinion, this is the greatest match the company's ever put on. And that's the second Ring of Honor Championship match between Samoa Joe and CM Punk, and another show aptly titled Joe vs. Punk 2. For me, I fucking love this match. I think this match is absolutely amazing. So this match really goes back to June of 2004 in a show called World Title Classic, where Samoa Joe was well over a year into his Ring of Honor title reign, probably about a year and 3 or 4 months. He'd gone through with so many guys over that time period. I mean, AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Loki, don't think he had Danielson, I don't think, Doug Williams, Homicide, a ton of guys. And then CM Punk gets a title shot. And they went for the interesting one, because I think in the first time in his title reign, Samoa Joe didn't win the match, but they went to a 1 hour draw. I mean, because they told a great story, because the story was CM Punk's strategy. Because Samoa Joe's matches were generally 15, 20 minute explosive matches. And of course at the time Samoa Joe was the biggest guy in the roster by far. I mean, on a Ring of Honor roster at the time, which was in size pretty damn small, Samoa Joe was a 280 pound heavyweight. So the question was, what CM Punk was going to test if Samoa Joe had the endurance. So CM Punk's strategy was to take Samoa Joe along, try and get him past 30 minutes. And at that point, he'd swoop in and beat him. But unfortunately for CM Punk, Samoa Joe could hang with him, and the match ended up going all the way to a 1 hour draw. And I remember online so much people were talking how awesome this match was, and it was an awesome match. However, pales into comparison to this one, because 4 months later, in October 2004, in the show in Chicago, Samoa Joe and CM Punk clashed again. But what some people might not know is this wasn't the original match at all. I mean, I'm guessing they were probably going to do the second match at All-Star Extravaganza, which was the site of the third match between the two. That match is awesome as well. Another fantastic match. So Ring of Honor in a little bit of a snag here because the match they booked was Samoa Joe versus Steve Corino. However, Corino had managed to double book himself, and he was booked that weekend to wrestle for 0-1 in Japan. So Steve Corino couldn't make the show. So at the last minute, Ring of Honor was like, oh, well, who the hell do we put in there? And I guess they were in Chicago, so they thought the best option to do was to throw CM Punk in there and do some more Joe CM Punk 2 a little bit earlier than planned. I think it was the right move because even back then in his indie days, CM Punk was incredibly popular in Chicago. I mean, nothing like he was in 2011 when he did the match with John Cena or anything like that, because by that point he'd been in WWE for like 5 years and he was a much bigger star in 2011 than he was in 2004, but still a very popular guy. So now the anticipation was, how could these guys top this other match? The idea they had was to once again go for a second 1 hour time limit draw. So now this is quite interesting. So now these guys have wrestled for 2 hours and not had a winner in it. So obviously Okada and Omega have both done this in recent years, having an hour match in 2017 and then having one over an hour in 2018. But in 2004 these guys did it, and God, and I mean the atmosphere of this match was great. The storytelling for me was absolutely outstanding, and what I think they did a great job at as well, having a 1 hour match for like that 2004 type audience, because back in the old days, I mean, you hear about a lot of guys having 1 hour draws, and don't get me wrong, that's impressive, but when you watch these old school 1 hour draws from the 70s, 80s, sometimes even further back, a lot of them, well, let's be honest, they didn't take many bumps, did they, in those matches? Mainly, they wrestled on the mat for a long time, had headlocks and had like 5-minute headlocks and things like that. So obviously that sort of style would not fly in 2004. Because wrestling had evolved so much since then. If we had a 70 Styles match in 2004, it would have got farted on basically. And obviously, I think the Bret Hart Shawn Michaels Iron Man match drew a lot of criticism because of that. Because for the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes of that match was a lot of rest holds and stuff like that. But I think these guys, what they did here, and as they did in the World Title Classic as well, had just a fantastic pace. Wasn't too fast, but they definitely kept the action moving. I mean, yeah, there was some down spots, because there's going to be, you have to have rest spots in a 30-minute match, guys. You can't just go boom, 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 boom for 60 minutes. That's just not possible. I mean, you'd have to be absolutely a crazy cardio maniac to pull something like that off. But yeah, the pace is awesome. I just love the little throwbacks to previous matches, but he showed guys countering spots that he did in the early matches, so telling the story that these guys had studied the previous match and they were prepared for stuff like that. Awesome match, and you can just tell, I think by the 30-minute mark, I think the crowd were pretty much anticipating this, if not going the full hour, going 50-55 minutes, because they could have easily done that. Maybe went 55 minutes, and maybe I'd CM Punk win the title right at the end. So then by the 45-minute mark, fans were just incredible. And what I loved about this, the commentary team actually abandoned the commentary halfway through the match and goes, you know what? I'm here as a wrestling fan. This match speaks for itself. So they stopped the commentary and then took the headsets off, and then for the rest of the match there was no commentary on. And I think that just built the atmosphere. It really did. This the anticipation towards the end, and right at the end, it looked like CM Punk almost had the victory, and then the time limit runs out. It was like, oh god, yeah, just an outstanding match. I remember everyone talked about this online at the time as well, and you've got to see this match. This match is actually unbelievable, to be fair. Definitely one of the best 1 hour matches of all time. Hell, one of the best matches you'll ever see, period. And for me, yeah, probably Cena and Punk was probably a more entertaining match and all that. But for me, as a pure match, this is the best match CM Punk ever had. Hell, best match Samoa Joe ever had for my money. Just an absolute classic match. And obviously, I think that Punk Joe trilogy from 2004, I think you've got to watch all of those matches. They're all awesome and they're all definitely worth it. And that's it, guys. That's a wrap. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Not sure when the next Fave Five will be. Probably maybe a couple of weeks, maybe something like that. I'm thinking I may do the TNA matches next, but I'm not 100% certain about that. And then, like I said, just watch out for the rest of WCW 1999 on the channel. And thanks for watching again, guys. And until next time, peace.